So you might say I'm sort of on a Longines kick. Today we're taking a look at one of my latest purchases. This is a BigEye from Longines. This is not just any BigEye, it's in grade 5 titanium and it has the Petrol blue dial. When this watch initially came out, I was very excited about it. It cost around $3,800, which I thought was pretty reasonably priced considering the watch that you're actually getting. However, I didn't pull the trigger when it came out, and then it sort of fell by the wayside. It was one of those watches that I wanted to eventually own, but never got around to buying. Recently, I was browsing Bezel.com, the Bezel app, and I saw this watch for sale for under $2,000, and I bought it. This, I thought, was an incredible deal for this watch, and that's why I went ahead and bought it, and now I have one today to show you guys. So I'm going to talk about why I ended up purchasing this watch and why I'm sort of on a kick with Longines. This is my third watch that I've purchased that is a Longines for one reason or another. I keep on coming back to them, especially on the secondary market. I think they are incredible values. So this was purchased on Bezel, so Bezel.com and the Bezel app. They are a marketplace. They have auctions, buy nows. On those buy nows, you can make offers. That's actually what I did for this watch. That's how I actually purchased this watch. They have tons of watches on their website and on their app. They are very modern, their app and their website, very easy to use, and they have thousands upon thousands of watches. They just started their auction program, which has been working really well. I've actually been bidding on a bunch of watches, and they are going for very good prices. However, like other marketplaces, they do have a buy now option and a make offer option. Like I mentioned, that's what I did with this watch. It was listed for around $2,300. I ended up getting it just under $2,000, which I think is a phenomenal price for this watch. They authenticate all of their watches in-house, so that means this watch actually went through their authentication process. And I'm going to throw up a video of what that actually entails. There was a watch that I purchased right before this watch that actually failed that process because its water resistance wasn't actually up to snuff. It was a 300-meter water resistant watch. It was a Seiko, and they actually sent it back to the person who was selling it because it didn't meet the standards. It didn't meet that 300 meters of water resistance. Pretty incredible. No other marketplace would do that, and they really do protect the buyer from fraudulent sellers. So I was really impressed with that. They also have a concierge service. That concierge service, if they don't have a watch on their website that you're interested in, they will go out, find that watch for you. And of course, it goes through the authentication process. Like I mentioned, this watch did go through the authentication process and they do actually check for condition. This watch was like new. It's almost brand new. There wasn't a scratch on it. That also has to do with the grade 5 titanium that the case is made out of. However, I do want to mention it was exactly as described. It came with the giant box that these watches come in, and of course papers, and that large worksheet of items that they actually check. This watch does get a grade 5 titanium case. It's one of the reasons why I really think this is a great watch. It also has one of the best chronograph dials that I have seen in a long time. It's a blue-green fume dial. It starts out sort of black at the edges, and as you work towards the center of the dial, it's an aqua blue-green. They call it a Petrol dial. The dial itself has a sand or grain texture to it, and that is throughout the entire dial except for the subdials, which are in black. You also get a radial texture on each one of the subdials. It gets its name BigEye from the large counter at the 3 o'clock. That is the 30-minute counter. It's larger than the other two, and that's where it gets its nickname, the BigEye. This specific model is dateless, so there is no date, which I really love. It's not a very cluttered dial, even though it's a chronograph and you have all of these indices and the subdials, it still does not look cluttered. It's actually very easy to use. You get old radium on the hands and on the indices. The indices are painted on. I really like the look of the old radium. Some people do not. I think on this watch, it's a vintage inspired watch. I think it looks great. Now, this was a model I believe that Longines never actually made. However, there was a prototype found, and then they ended up making the original re-release of this watch. And now, obviously, this is an edition that really never actually existed with the blue dial fume pattern. That never existed. I think that the blue dial definitely makes sense. The movement inside this watch is the caliber L688. It's basically a Valjoux 7750 with a column wheel. So this gets an upgrade. It gets a column wheel. I believe it gets 54 hours of power reserve and a silicone hairspring. So this is essentially an ETA movement that has been upgraded for Longines. I believe this is also used in some Omega watches under a different name with some different architecture, but it's essentially the exact same movement. It's a really great workhorse movement that obviously is on the thicker side. So that does affect the dimensions of this watch. It's around 14.5 millimeters thick. You do get a very boxed sapphire crystal with very good AR coating, I will say as well. Not a lot of reflection that you get from this sapphire crystal. However, since you have that boxed sapphire crystal and that larger, thicker movement, it is 14.5 millimeters thick. That's probably one of my biggest gripes about this watch. However, that's not that big of a deal and actually wears pretty comfortably. This is a 41 millimeter watch. I measured actually at 40.7, somewhere in that range. So it wears like a 41 millimeter watch. You have a very big crown on here because it's vintage inspired, and obviously it's a pilot's watch, so you're getting a very big crown. 7.3 millimeters is what I measured. All of this is in grade 5 titanium. I do want to mention that again. Extra scratch resistant over grade 2 titanium. So I really do love grade 5 titanium. A lot of my recent watches have been in grade 5 titanium. I just really like the material. And it's a 48 millimeter lug to lug. So this wears very comfortably on my 7.5 inch wrist. This is on a Cav leather strap. They call it a smooth vintage strap, I believe. It's basically a brown strap with really no texture on it. I don't think it's bad. I just wish there was a little bit of texture on it. I do like a little bit of texture on there, and I think it would actually go really good with that dial. Maybe something that has a sand texture or a suede strap in a tan color. I think that would look really good. This also gets a titanium buckle, so it has a really nice Longines buckle on it, and it is in titanium. The lume here is not bad. It's actually pretty good for a major brand. Usually brands like Longines and all these other major brands from the Swatch group don't put a ton of lume on their dials and their indices, on the hands and indices, for one reason or another. However, this is pretty decently applied. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I really love what this brand is doing. All of the watches that they're coming out with seem like they are really thinking about them. They're putting a lot of thought into the designs. They're also listening to the community. They're downsizing certain watches. They're re-releasing certain watches that people really love from their back catalog. And just the Hydro Conquest that I bought earlier last year, just a phenomenal everyday GMT that's thin, 300 meters of water resistance. It's good looking, and it gets a traveler's GMT. These are all things that people want with micro adjust. I just think it's an awesome watch at a really good price. And again, this is another awesome watch at a really good price. And again, I bought this on Bezel. The Bezel app, bezel.com, is what I use on a regular basis. And they have a very modern website. Check out their website. They have tons of watches for sale, auctions and buy nows. You can make offers, all of that good stuff. All of their watches, every single one of their watches, no matter how you buy them, are authenticated in-house by the Bezel team. And of course, they have that concierge service. If you can't find what you're actually looking for on their website, they'll go out and find it for you, and they'll work with you on price. You could actually tell them what you're looking to spend, if they can do it, if they can't, and what they could actually get it for. So that's pretty cool. I think that's a really great service. I've actually used it, so I definitely recommend it. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think of this watch down in the comments below. Obviously, you know I like the watch because I bought the watch. I think it's a great looking chronograph, one of the best looking chronographs that they make, that Longines make. And I have to say, they make some really good looking watches. The Tuxedo chronograph that I reviewed here on my channel, there are a lot of good looking watches coming out of the brand that are really well made. Tell me what you think down in the comments below. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It's super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Thank you for logging on. I'll catch you guys in the next video.